Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sparing Partners. Today, I'm talking to Sean Kinney, the editor-in-chief at RCR Wireless News, and I've known him for a long time, and every time we meet, we talk about all sorts of things, not just from telecom, literature, art, food, drinks, whatever. But today, we're going to try to stick to the topic. And the topic today is how AI is going to impact our use of the network, and specifically the access part. And both Sean and I have been working a lot on AI and trying to look at it for what it is. We are strong supporters who believe AI is going to change a lot of things. So we're not coming from a point of view. We're very supportive. However, we also recognize that there is a lot of hype and in there. And so today we want to talk about how do we think and how should we think collectively as an industry about the change in traffic that we should expect as a result of our use of AI. So unlike a lot of the sort of podcasts and things that I've been writing about, and I think Sean too, is more from a network point of view, how you improve the network to use AI, to look at it more from the user point of view. How is that going to change our behavior, and how is that going to affect the networks? So with that said, I am sure that pretty much all of you know Sean, but why don't you introduce yourself? Just do it.
Hi, Monica. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. My name's Sean Kinney. I'm the editor-in-chief of RCR Wireless News. I've been there for about 10 years. A lot of my coverage focused on mobile networks, but for a lot of obvious reasons, been expanding into AI infrastructure, AI services, and what it means for mobile networks. So I think it's a really timely topic, and I look forward to discussing it with you.
Absolutely, and you just have a report that is going to be listed in the description of the podcast. So get it if you can. So clearly, you said we look at the infrastructure, but the infrastructure. In order to understand what infrastructure, we need to understand what kind of traffic demands there are. And so I've been seeing a lot of people saying, now with AI, traffic will just explode because AI generates so much traffic, and so we need to kind of get ready for this onslaught. And at the same time, we see that the general traffic, forget about AI, I mean just what people are currently doing, is still using more and more data. So data usage is still increasing, but the rate of increase is slowing down. So what do you make of it? What's your view?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nicely distilled the sort of emerging narrative. AI traffic's going to flood mobile networks, so operators need to really prepare for what's coming. But I can tell you anecdotally, and I know you know this because we're both heavy users of generative AI applications. I mostly use ChatGPT, but I also use Perplexity. I also use Gemini, use those on my handsets. I can tell you definitively it has made no difference in the amount of data I consume on a month-to-month basis. And I can say that definitively because I went and looked. I know when I downloaded these apps, and I can see my monthly usage, and I can break it down by app, and it is not changing the total in any material way.
Yes. And I can say the same because I guess I'm one of the few people that doesn't have an unlimited plan because I don't need it. Because I try, but not because but I want to know. I mean, and it turns out I actually do not use as much. And in a way, ChatGPT is making me more efficient. So if anything, I could even make an argument I'm using less. I don't think that's the case, but why should it be? If I use ChatGPT to do a search instead of the usual search engine, what's the difference? So what do you think that people are kind of
One thing I think is particularly interesting is we have that thesis statement that's being pushed that I think we both described as hype that AI is going to flood mobile networks, and we've already seen a response to that in a lot of marketing messaging that we're hearing out of major companies, particularly mobile SoC providers. And this is this idea of on-device AI, wherein we envision this near-term future where there's so much AI traffic on the network that just to make it feasible economically, you have to pull the processing onto device. So, I mean, I understand the logical contours of that, but again, that's a response to a thesis that I don't agree with, that we're going to see this just massive influx of AI traffic. Could always be wrong, but just again, anecdotally, I don't see myself as being wrong. Uh, just to bring that, even more into focus, the vast majority of my AI usage is riding on Wi-Fi or fixed networks, is not on a mobile network. And I mean, this is that same discussion we've having for years about, in-building consumption of data. It's riding over Wi-Fi. It is not a problem for cellular to solve necessarily.
Yeah, and especially that kind of use, if you do like a search, you're kind of more like in a sit down mode, which is happens to be indoor. And yeah, Wi-Fi takes like 80% of traffic, give and take, across pretty much the world. So yeah, if it is a problem, it's going to be more of a problem for Wi-Fi than cellular, I would say. But I wonder whether isn't it like doesn't it sound a little bit like what happened with 5G, that when when operators were starting to deploy 5G, they say, oh, with all these new use cases, the usage is going to go, sky high, and that nothing really. I mean, yes, it's sort of the growth in traffic continued to grow, and what you see repeatedly is that once you introduce, say, Wi-Fi, or it happened with 4G as well, the moment you introduce, there is more capacity and people do more,
Mhm.
because all of a sudden you realize that you can do video or anything in a place that where there was no coverage before. So yes, the traffic goes up a bit, but not because of 5G or because this kind of you're doing on mobile gaming 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah, I mean that's that long-standing thing of you describe things as explosions or tsunamis, and I mean that's just not the case. It wasn't the case with 5G. It's not going to be the case with AI. It's also not going to be the case with XR or augmented reality goggles. There's not going to be a point in time where networks become overwhelmed. It will be gradual and incremental and phased. And I mean, specific to AI, if it's an explosion in anything, it's an explosion in compute, not in mobile bandwidth. So I'm really failing to buy the hype here, and that's difficult for me because I really do see the promise of AI. I am a believer. I am a user. I think this is incredibly important technological change that's happening. What it means for the access network, not a lot right now.
Yeah. Or probably even in the future. However, as you point out, there is going to be a huge, well, there is already, I think, an increase in the kind of demand that you see in the data center in fixed networks. Because, when you do a search on ChatGPT or whatever the model is, the model makes a lot of calls and searches. So if you were to do it manually, it would take huge amount of resources in the access, but you don't. So actually, you streamline what happened on the access, but what happened on the fixed network is much bigger because the model has to check all sorts of things to give you the answer.
Mhm.
So that is actually going to be much more, from a quantitative point of view, much, much bigger.
100%. And even, I'm still trying to work out the mobile network side of it, but a lot of the work that we do as it relates to AI for a network is about driving optimization and efficiency. So even as user demand for AI traffic increases and infects the network's better prepared for it because it is itself making use of AI to run transmissions more efficiently. So, you have the same technology that's working against the network, also working for the network.
Yeah, yeah. And also, there is a further element of that, the usage of AI is going to increase, but the models are also going to become more efficient. I mean,
Yeah.
DeepSeek is just one example of that. But I think that, generally speaking, you can expect that in the same way that, as you learn how to use something, you become more efficient, the models will also become more efficient. So when you do your search, it would require less efforts. I mean, less computational effort going forward. So what you see now in terms of usage is like, so you look at it like, oh my God, this is scary. But, I would imagine that actually that is going to go down.
100%. I mean, I think DeepSeek's tip of the iceberg, and I mean that was a huge moment. I think when people saw the capabilities that you could get out of a much smaller open weight model than some of these giant multi-trillion parameter models, and I remember when that happened in early January, and all of a sudden, everybody on LinkedIn, myself included, had something to say about Jevons paradox, where the more available you make the technology, the more you see uptake of the technology, but cost goes down. So it's playing out right now, but I think on the mobile network piece, it just reinforces this idea that regardless of what AI tool you're using, how you're using it, to what extent you're using it, it's a story of fiber, it's a story of metro edge, it's a story of hyperscale data centers, not so much of cell towers and small cells and DASs and things of that nature.
Yeah. And we have the technology, I believe, to even deal with that. It's just a question. Yeah, you're going to need some investment. So it looks like, should be okay. And so, that's now one thing that lately everybody's been talking about is the agentic AI, and that is like you say. So like before, okay, that was it, and now, oh, but with agentic AI, everything is. And I think that agentic AI is a very interesting, very powerful. Now, I'm not dismissing it at all, but even that is not going to be okay. You're going to have all the agents doing things, but they're just going to help us. They're not going to change dramatically. You're not going to have your phone kind of doing his own thing
The last time
24 hours a day, you know?
the last time I saw you in Barcelona, I had seen a lot of demos of agentic AI, and I mean this was consumer facing stuff, but I mean if the demos and the products that are in market today labeled as agentic AI, I mean this is no concern for mobile network traffic. I can say this, very confidently because it's not agency, it's an intermediary. It's something that uses an app. A lot of the ones I saw, I mean, you still have to watch it use the app. That's just not really, that is not agentic AI. It is some sort of in between technology that gets us from where we are to what will ultimately be agentic AI. But from what I can tell, it is not available to people to use today.
Mhm. And even if it will, I mean, again, it's the same kind of thing that you are sort of constrained about what is that you use your mobile connectivity for. It's absolutely crucial to have connectivity, but it doesn't mean that every time you're out of the house, you need to be connected and do something. I mean, you need to be connected, but you don't do just that. And hopefully, you have better things to do in life than just you know playing with Chat GPT all the time, pleasant as it might be. So that's I guess that's another thing.
That's a future state that I mean I saw it laid out on LinkedIn, and it was an analog for sort of the diagram of human evolution from ape to upright.
Okay.
And it was 1G to 6G, and the suggestion that is that 6G is not a network for people, it's a network for agents that are talking to each other. And I'm just like, what are they talking about? I don't understand. The demo I saw last was how to make a restaurant reservation. Thought, I mean, I don't think that requires like always on network connection, just streaming data off of my mobile device. It's just I can't figure it out yet, but maybe I'm missing it.
Yeah, and you can have something that you call an AI agent to help you make a reservation, but really it's just this. improved version of what we currently have. So AI is just provides a better user experience or whatever. So if I have if we get AI, for instance, to help us with customer support, hey, we're not going to complain. If it's an agent, it's a good thing. But it's the same thing. It's basically adds some functionality to what we already have. So, but okay, so if you say, okay, fine, it's not going to change a whole lot in the access traffic. What does that mean? Because that means, there is a lot of hope that AI is going to address all the monetization issues out there because, 5G didn't fix it. IoT didn't fix it. So now everybody thinks that AI is going to be, because of all this change, it's going to improve monetization expectations. But if there is no change, what is it going to do to monetization?
Well, is there an opportunity to see a sort of reinvigoration of interest in edge and mobile edge computing? And I think, what is effective AI all about? It's about context. And so for my use of AI, I am the ultimate source of context, and my proxy is my connected device. So the ability to process data and context locally through an AI tool, I think certainly improves the end user experience, whatever the AI tool is. But back to the point of direct monetization of increasing network load, it's the opposite, right? Isn't this, distributed localized compute that's not transmitting huge amounts of data across a network back into the core, back out to the end user? It's in fact by design not doing that.
Yeah. So basically, it's not like we're going to see people paying more.
I'm paying more to ChatGPT. I am not paying more to Verizon as of right
Well,
now.
yeah, and that's actually the thing that so there was a mobile congress. It was Deutsche Telekom that said, we have, the AI. I can't remember what they called it, but we are an AI company. The phone becomes an AI phone and whatever. And the problem is that in a way, without that, on my phone, it's actually hard to get out of AI right now. Everything is like Gemini, whatever you're using, you can't get out of it. Useful or not, whether you like it or not, there's just no way. So it's hard, I think, for operators to offer AI specific services in the same way that they've had trouble, providing video services. You go to Netflix, you got to OpenAI or use whatever.
Yeah, and I think we've got maybe one or two operators right now that are trialing branded agents. So, here's me selling you an agent. Of course, it's, like a reskin version of someone else's model and UI, but beside the point, that's kind of the big question right now. Just like your comment about video and operators' inability to capture value from third-party video streaming services, can operators put in market their own branded AI agent in a way that's compelling to a big enough customer base to see some sort of, revenue lift? I don't know. I don't think so, but the trial balloons have been floated, so I guess it's a matter of time to see whether they, reach the sky or pop.
Yeah, but it's just, yeah. So I guess that, so from an operator point of view, you just want to. I mean, maybe it's like, okay, you want to use AI because it's good for your network. Like, so for instance, all the edge services, so you can have AI in the cloud, AI at the edge, depending on what you're trying to do. You get a better user experience. You get much more efficient. That means that your costs go down. That's very good, but it doesn't really translate into this kind of additional revenues. Now, if they can get more private networks, sure, they get more revenues, but it's also true that with AI, enterprises might be able to run their own networks more easily. So it kind of might go both ways.
Yeah, I guess from the operator perspective, right, there is a bit of a divergence because we do see a lot of investment in really expensive GPUs pushed further out in the network for, some sort of future GPU as a service where we've got a shared infrastructure that's providing GPU accelerated computing for the network and then selling GPU accelerated computing to, whatever end user. But I, I don't know. I mean, I have not seen any quantitative data saying that we're making a lot of money off of GPU as a service. And I know they're spending it because I've seen that, estimates of the number of Blackwells that are being put into edge data centers, et cetera. I've also heard from very major tier one operators, we do not see this as a good investment. We are focused on CPU, computing throughout our network for our own internal facing AI optimizations that will drive down our own costs. And in the event that there's a monetization opportunity that will be edge inferencing. And I guess this circles back to your comment earlier about more efficient, smaller models. So, edge inferencing can be delivered by CPUs. So why over provision with these cutting edge NVIDIA units that have yet to be deemed necessary at that point in the network? I mean, of course you need those in data centers for, handling large models and training models and just really compute intensive. But at a base station, at an edge node, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've been hearing a lot, that maybe in the future, but certainly not yet. So you want to be ready. You want to be, you can use AI in the RAN without a GPU. So there is different. So it's not like you have it. Well, there's a lot of different ways to use AI, different intensities, different cell sites. And so you just have to be flexible. However, I have to say that it's not just the sharing GPU, because actually I saw on LinkedIn that there was a cartoon like, um, you have all these GPUs and then the RAN people didn't have access to them because the operator had sold it to somebody else. So it's like, if you need it, you need it, so you need to be able to use it whenever you can. So if you sell it to somebody else, so there is an issue there. However, I think that there is an opportunity because operators like in the US, Verizon has a lot of old central offices, so they have real estate. But that's a real estate play. It's not nothing to do with the wireless network. So if they have the real estate where they can put, basically it's like small data centers. Well, that's fine, but it's a completely different. It's completely separate from the. It's a real estate
Mhm.
play,
Yeah,
which is
because
perfectly fine.
leveraging distributed compute access. But I guess to me, that's at this exact point in time, I
Mhm.
think that the goal of edge AI is it's about making traffic smarter, smaller, more
Yes.
localized, and all of those things collectively make sure that AI traffic does not flood the network.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, and so all those concerns about AI, is it, can we afford it? It's going to require so much energy. Yeah, probably at the beginning you will have a little bit of a spike, but ultimately the goal is to make everything more efficient
Hmm.
for us, for the network. And if not, then well, we have a problem. But I don't see how that,
I think you're describing a fundamental tension in AI more generally, which is a question of more data or is it a question of smarter data, of the right data? I think that applies to the fixed network. I think it applies to models, and I think it applies to the access network too.
yes, you're absolutely right. And the ability to find what's relevant and what's not is a challenge.
Context.
Exactly. But how do you define it? So I think that that's where we have to learn. And that's where at the beginning we might kind of find it that it's not working all that well because we cannot use context in the appropriate level. And so that I think is the challenge today. And so and it's also I guess a cultural challenge as well. in terms of how do we get this thing, because there is a lot of time, there's the geopolitical dimension, there is the human dimension. Is AI going to make everybody else, a lot of people, a lot of our jobs will disappear and whatever. And I think that there is a lot of those are issues that are actually important. But just by saying we shouldn't be doing it because there is this potential, it's just not going to go anywhere.
I
So
agree
we
with
need
everything you
to.
just said. I feel like I'm being a bad sparring partner because I'm validating what you're saying.
Yeah, but the thing is that actually a lot of people are not. I mean, well, it's hard to disagree with reasonable people. But there is a lot of a push out there. Like when DeepSeek came out, everybody's like, "Oh my God, this is terrible!" And uh, it's actually good. I think that we have different companies having completely different approaches.
Oh yeah,
And
100%. I mean,
hey,
DeepSeek reminded us of something that's foundational to any applied technology, which is that small innovation, drives a flywheel. It's not just these huge advances. Those don't come along that often. But if you can keep tuning something, you can keep delivering incrementally better outcome. But that also does speak to something you and I were discussing earlier, and the quality of an AI output. I use it all the time, and I don't trust it at all. I verify whatever comes out of there for good reason because it's very often feels right but isn't. So there's this problem with it's an incredibly useful tool, but utility isn't a proxy for accuracy or for something that you can take as gospel. It has to be checked. So it's just it's incredibly interesting is what it is. It's a very great time to work in the technology space because things are changing very fast and they are very important. But this is not a infallible technology. This is something that you have to work with, not let work for you.
absolutely. And I think that this is absolutely crucial. And so what I want, maybe we can disagree on this. And because, as I say, it's a technology that helps you. You shouldn't trust it too much. But I think that, we've been around long enough to actually have the critical, like, you know what? I don't think that that's right. Or let me double check the sources. You kind of spot it. But for somebody just coming out of college, that's hard. I remember when I came out of college or, start working in telecoms, I had no clue as to what would be okay, what's reasonable, what's not. So, do you think that people out there, especially those that have less experience, because there is this thing that, older people don't know how to deal about AI, but young people, they just know it all because they grew up with it. Is that true?
I don't think so. And again, I'm going to rely on anecdotal kind of response here, but I live in a college town and I interact with a lot of college students and they are absolutely using AI, but I think they've got a big problem where they're overly confident in a tool that they don't comprehend. And even if they did comprehend the tool, they don't have the institutional memory or institutional knowledge to even give it a superficial check. So I mean that's a real big problem. I think, as we discussed earlier, this idea of human who can very competently use AI, that's a more valuable worker than just AI or just human. And so I think, that's kind of, if I was entering the workforce, that's what I would be trying to do is build up my own domain expertise in my field and then augment my workflow with AI and spend a lot of time making sure I understand how I'm using it, why I'm using it, and what it's telling me.
And okay, this is what you would personally do, but what should we do as a society?
Ooh,
I understand this is a big question, but why not? And you're like, let's close it on the big picture.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think as a society, we need to understand that trust is a is a spectrum. It's not something that you reach at a point in time. And I think the more that individuals, the more that industries can understand how AI works, the more they can put it to work for them. I know we talk a lot about reasoning models and things like that, but the AI that you have access today is a prediction machine. It's predicting the next word in a sentence. It's predicting the next line of code. So I'll say something trite. I mean, it's as good as the data that goes into it. And a lot of data is very bad. So a lot of outputs are going to be very bad. So you just have to be very pragmatic and very narrow, I think, in how you use it. And then you move down that spectrum of trust. And I think in an ideal scenario, you eventually see people that are able to work more efficiently. You're seeing that today, that are able to create more readily. You're seeing that today, and it compounds, up to industrial and national levels. Ideally, you see some sort of, step change in economic output, but think you have to be very careful there because, as you've pointed out right now, I mean, it's not like new money that's coming into the world on the back of AI. It's a service that some people pay for and some people don't. And there's not this like knock-on effect for operators that's emerging. So it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, and it could be that I think initially it might be more challenging as you get used to it as a society. It's like social media. It's kind of like actually taking the social media issues to a wider scale because you don't if you don't really check the sources and even what are the sources, can you trust the sources? So it's just a deep fake.
Mm.
It's just like I think it's a real issue. However, I think that we need to move on. We kind of our time is up, but maybe I think that this is an important note, an important sort of set of topics. How should we deal with it, not just.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and this has been a lot of fun. But I guess just to get back to the
Yes,
network of it all, I would say AI drives demand for compute, not for mobile data. Edge AI is about small efficiencies, not creating congestion, and fixed networks are going to carry the bulk of the traffic for a long time to come.
absolutely. And at the same time, it's just great news that we have it. It's a great opportunity, and we shouldn't be wasting it. So anyway, Sean, thank you so much. It's a pleasure as always talking to you.
Hey, thank you, Monica.
And thank you all for listening, and keep listening to us on your favorite podcast platform.